In 2018, a team of geneticists at Stanford University finished a study that took them nearly 2 decades to complete. They analyzed DNA samples from more than 8,000 people across every inhabited continent, searching for one question: which human populations had remained the most genetically isolated over time? The results stunned scientists and completely challenged popular assumptions about ancestry, race, and identity. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy deep dives into hidden history, genetics, and ancient civilizations. We keep uploading new stories like this. To understand the ranking, you first need to understand what the scientists were actually measuring. They were not looking for superior humans or better bloodlines. They were measuring something called genetic continuity, how much of a population's DNA remained connected to the original people who first settled that region thousands of years ago. Every human alive today ultimately traces their ancestry back to Africa around 200,000 years ago. Over time, small groups migrated outward into Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas. As these groups separated, their DNA slowly changed through climate, diet, disease, and isolation. Some populations mixed heavily through conquest and migration. Others remained remarkably isolated. At the bottom of the ranking were the most genetically mixed populations on Earth. Latin America ranked among the lowest in genetic continuity. Countries like Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic carried strong combinations of indigenous American, European, and West African ancestry. Centuries of colonization, slavery, and migration turned the region into one of the greatest genetic melting pots in history. Yet scientists were surprised by how much indigenous DNA had survived despite disease and conquest. The United States also ranked near the bottom, exactly as many expected. Modern Americans carry ancestry from nearly every major population on Earth. African Americans often show significant European ancestry, while many white Americans carry traces of Native American and African DNA as well. But then came the surprises. The United Kingdom ranked far lower in continuity than many imagined. Modern English DNA turned out to be a mixture of Celtic tribes, Romans, Anglo-Saxons, Vikings, Normans, and later immigrants from across the British Empire. The idea of a pure Anglo-Saxon population simply did not exist genetically. Spain showed heavy North African and Mediterranean influence after centuries of Moorish rule. Russia carried layers of Slavic, Mongol, Baltic, and Turkic ancestry. Germany also proved far more genetically blended than its national identity suggested. India ranked surprisingly low in continuity too, not because of modern mixing, but because the subcontinent has been a crossroads of civilizations for over 50,000 years. Ancient South Indian, Central Asian, Persian, Himalayan, and tribal populations blended together over thousands of years. Then the rankings began shifting toward populations with stronger isolation. Iran retained remarkable continuity with ancient Persians, despite invasions by Arabs, Mongols, and Turks. Ireland preserved much of its ancient Celtic ancestry thanks to its island geography. Finland became one of Europe's most genetically distinct populations due to centuries of isolation and a small founding population. The Basque people of northern Spain and southern France fascinated researchers even more. Their language has no known relative, and their DNA links them directly to Europe's earliest hunter-gatherers before later migrations transformed the continent. Then came Sardinia, an island whose people still closely resemble Europe's first farming populations from over 8,000 years ago. At number 4 were the Ainu of Japan, descendants of the ancient Jomon people, who lived in the Japanese islands before later migrations arrived from mainland Asia. Their DNA preserved one of East Asia's oldest surviving human lineages. Number 3 shocked the scientific world: the San people of southern Africa. The San carry the deepest genetic roots of any living humans. Their DNA branches closer to the original human lineage than almost any other population alive today. In fact, the genetic diversity within the San alone is greater than the diversity found among all non-African populations combined. At number 2 came the Yamato Japanese. Japan's island geography and long periods of self-imposed isolation allowed its population to remain remarkably stable genetically for nearly 2,000 years. But the number 1 result stunned everyone. The most genetically isolated population on Earth was found on the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal. The indigenous tribes of these islands, including the Sentinelese, Jarawa, and Onge, descend from some of the earliest humans who left Africa around 60,000 years ago. After reaching the islands, they remained isolated from the rest of humanity for tens of thousands of years. Their DNA became a living time capsule. Scientists discovered that these islanders preserved genetic traits incredibly close to the earliest modern humans who first entered Asia. They are not African, Indian, or Asian in the modern sense. Their lineage split away long before those modern identities even existed. The Sentinelese remain completely isolated to this day, violently rejecting outside contact. Indian authorities now protect the island because even common illnesses could wipe out the tribe entirely. But the most important discovery from the Stanford study was not who ranked number one. It was the realization that almost every modern population on Earth is the result of endless mixing. Empires rose and collapsed. Traders moved across continents. Conquerors settled foreign lands. Families crossed borders, cultures blended. The English are not purely Anglo-Saxon. Italians are not purely Roman. Russians are not purely Slavic. Indians are not one ancestry. Americans are not one people. Human history is movement. The populations with the highest genetic continuity were not better or superior. They were simply the most isolated, protected by mountains, oceans, forests, or deliberate separation from the outside world. Meanwhile, the rest of humanity became something else entirely, a constantly evolving mosaic of migrations, relationships, and shared ancestry. And that process is still happening today. Every generation creates new mixtures, new identities, and new stories. The science is clear. The real history of humanity is not separation, it is connection.